The Prophecy by Taylor Swift. Today I'm looking at another request from the Tortured Poets Department anthology, and this is The Prophecy, which is a song produced and co-written by Aaron Dessner. This is a somewhat more straightforward song to interpret, I think, in terms of its lyrics, than some of the songs we've been looking at more recently. It's a song that deals with some themes that we're familiar with from Taylor's writing, the idea of fate, of course relationships, love, but particularly this idea of fate. Are things destined to be? And if they are, is there any way in which we can change our destiny, or in which our destiny can be changed for us? So it's exploring those kinds of issues around the idea of a prophecy. So without further ado, let's dive into The Prophecy by Taylor Swift.
Hand on the throttle, thought I caught lightning in a bottle. Oh, but it's gone again.
The opening of this song, there's just acoustic guitars playing on both sides of the mix here, and very little else that I can hear. Hand on the throttle suggests to me that she's going along at full pace, at full throttle, like on a motorbike when you turn the throttle and you accelerate ahead. That's the image I get here, that it's all speed ahead for Taylor at the beginning of this song. And she thought she caught lightning in a bottle. The idea here is, I think Benjamin Franklin did experiments, the famous kite experiments, I think, where he tried to catch the electricity from a lightning strike and store it in a Leyden bottle. And this is obviously something very difficult to do, relies a lot on chance, and I guess is also potentially dangerous. But she thought she'd got it. She thought she'd caught this lightning, this experience now. She thought she had it at last, but it's gone again. And I think this is something that we see again and again in Taylor's songs and probably in her life too, that once she goes full throttle, she goes at full pace into not only relationships but into everything, and that she's always trying to capture this electric experience. And every time so far, at least, it's just dissipated. It's gone again.
Hand on the throttle, thought I caught lightning in a bottle. Oh, but it's gone again. And it was written, I got cursed like Eve got bitten. Oh, was it punishment?
It was written immediately raises this idea of fate. It was written in the stars. It was a prophecy. It was written that things would be this way. I got cursed like Eve got bitten. So she's interpreting her difficulties with relationships in terms of a curse upon her. This phrase, I got cursed like Eve got bitten, may strike us as a little strange initially. This is obviously a reference to Eve in the Garden of Eden, but Eve didn't get bitten in the Garden of Eden. So what is she getting at here? Well, I think she's conflating the two ideas. First of all, that Eve was tempted by the serpent and she bit the fruit. She bit the forbidden fruit. But biting and snakes and serpents go together as well. So she's kind of merged these ideas, saying that in effect, what the snake did to Eve was to bite her. Just as she bit the apple, the snake bit her, figuratively speaking. And that was the curse that she incurred. And the narrator of this song feels that it's the same for her, that she's been cursed in some way. And she asks, was it punishment? And the question behind that question, of course, is punishment for what? So the narrator is here struggling with their history of relationships. Every time they feel that they've got the real thing, that they've really got a hold of it this time, it just dies away again, and they begin to believe that they are cursed, that it was written to be this way for them.
And it was written, I got cursed like Eve got bitten. Oh, was it punishment? Pat around when I get home. I guess a lesser woman would have lost hope. A greater woman wouldn't beg. But I looked to the sky and said, please, I've been on my knees. Change the prophecy. Don't want money, just someone who wants my company. Let it once be me. Who do I have to speak to about if they can redo the prophecy?
Musically, this continues with just these acoustic guitars playing. I think there might be 3, I'm not sure. And now she's describing herself as padding around her apartment like a caged animal, back and forth, back and forth. And here she paints herself as a kind of mediocre woman, I guess, somewhere in the middle. A lesser woman would have lost hope. She's not that. But a greater woman wouldn't have begged. She'd have been stronger than that. So she's placing herself somewhere in this middle ground. And she looked to the sky, a kind of gesture of prayer, and said, please, I've been on my knees. Change the prophecy. So again, she's in a position of prayer here, in a prayerful posture. She's begging the sky, whoever it may be, to change her fate, to change what's written. She isn't looking for material goods. She isn't looking for money. She's just looking for someone who wants her company, who wants to be with her. This is a very deep-rooted desire, a deep-rooted need, the need to be loved, the need to be appreciated for what we are. And she's begging, look, there's been a mistake here. Who do I talk to? Who do I speak to get this prophecy redone? Who can I talk to rewrite my fate? So there's something of a tension here around this idea of fate. Fate suggests that something is irrevocable, that it's going to happen no matter what we do. Yet at the same time, there's this kind of half belief that maybe our fate can be changed. But it's still tied to the idea that someone else, some other power, is in charge of our destiny, is in charge of our life. And we have to ask at some point whether that's true at all. And we have to ask, what is our responsibility in this? But at the moment, she's looking outward for some external force to fix things for her. External forces have caused the problem. Now she's looking for external forces to fix the problem.
Pat around when I get home. I guess a lesser woman would have lost hope. A greater woman wouldn't beg. But I looked to the sky and said, please, I've been on my knees. Change the prophecy. Don't want money, just someone who wants my company. Let it once be me. Who do I have to speak to about if they can redo the prophecy? Cards on the table, mind play out like fools in a fable. Oh, it was sinking in.
The instrumentation is beginning to build a little here. Still, the acoustic guitars are most predominant though. Now we move into another area of fortune telling here. The cards are on the table, which I understand to be the tarot cards that she's referring to here. The Fool is one of the cards in the tarot deck. That has a lot of interpretations depending on a whole lot of things. But basically, if we can look at the image of the tarot card here, then what we see is the Fool about to step off a cliff, looking blissfully up at the sky, doesn't know what's in store for him. Now, the stepping off a cliff could be a sign of danger, or it could be a leap of faith. It can be different things in different contexts. But I think the main idea here is that she keeps on stepping off this cliff, that she keeps going into these situations, these relationships, without looking closely at what's ahead of her. And she says, oh, it was sinking in.
Cards on the table, mind play out like fools in a fable. Oh, it was sinking in, sinking in. Oh, slow is the quicksand, poison blood from the wound of the pricked hand. Oh, still I dream of him.
Slow is the quicksand. It's kind of paradoxical, isn't it? That quicksand, although it's called quicksand, when you get into it, you actually sink very slowly. So it's a slow death. It's not something that happens immediately. When she gets herself into these situations, it's always a slow death, a slow sinking. Poisoned blood from the wound of the pricked hand speaks to me of fairy tales here. It's reminiscent of Sleeping Beauty pricking her finger. And the suggestion of sleep is maintained in the next line, still I dream of him. I don't think him here is a specific person. Him is the ideal image in her mind. She still dreams of this as a possibility. The previous section finishes with, oh, it's sinking in. Then we go into the quicksand image. So there's two senses of sinking here. She sinks into these relationships. She sinks into these situations slowly. But at the same time, it's sinking in. It's beginning to dawn on her what's happening here.
Slow is the quicksand, poison blood from the wound of the pricked hand. Oh, still I dream of him. Please, I've been on my knees, change the prophecy. Don't want money, just someone who wants my company. Let it once be me. Who do I have to speak to about if they can redo the prophecy? And I sound like an infant, feeling like the very last drops of an ink pen. A greater woman stays cool, but I howl like a wolf at the moon.
And I sound like an infant. It's interesting, I think, because here she's kind of acknowledging that this belief is a childish belief. She sounds like an infant. An infant thinks that the world is inhabited by magic powers. So this is a kind of childish belief. She feels like the very last drops of an ink pen. A pen eventually runs out of ink, and she feels of herself that she's running out of ink. This is particularly poignant, I think, for someone who loves writing so much. The idea of running out of ink and not being able to write anymore is a terrifying prospect, and it's something that's akin to dying for her, I think, at this point, running out of ink. But once again, she compares herself to a greater woman. A greater woman stays cool, and she doesn't identify with this person. She's the infant. She howls like a wolf at the moon. There's something primal about her response. She's not a cool, rational person. She becomes a beast or a child. And maybe there are some similarities between those things too.
And I sound like an infant, feeling like the very last drops of an ink pen. A greater woman stays cool, but I howl like a wolf at the moon. And I look unstable, gathered with a coven round a sorceress table. A greater woman has faith, but even statues crumble if they're made to wait.
And I look unstable. This is expanding on this childish, beast-like quality. She's unstable. She's a little crazy. And again, we have magic introduced into the mix here, gathered with a coven around a sorceress's table. She's looking to magic for a solution. All of this is magical thinking. And she adds that a greater woman has faith. Personally, I don't see much difference between the ideas of magic and religion. I think they are closely related to each other, no matter what people of faith say. But clearly, some people do see a distinction between magic and religion, belief in magic and faith. Nevertheless, they both appeal to external sources of power, of control. But a greater woman, she says, has faith. She doesn't turn to magic. She has faith. Well, let's say it's faith in herself. Let's look at it that way. But even statues crumble if they're made to wait. Even marble, stone will weather away if it's pummeled hard enough by the weather. So there's only so much a person can take, seems to be the message here.
And I look unstable, gathered with a coven round a sorceress table. A greater woman has faith, but even statues crumble if they're made to wait. I'm so afraid I sealed my fate, no sign of soulmates.
I'm so afraid I sealed my fate. This again suggests this ambiguity about the idea of fate. If fate is something completely foretold, destined to be, how can it be changed? And similarly, how can it be sealed? If it's fate, it's fate. Yet there's always a suggestion that somehow you do have some control over your own destiny. You do have some control over your fate. Here she's suggesting that she herself has sealed her fate. So we're beginning to see some sense of responsibility here, that it's not all external forces that are at work here, that she is, at least in part, responsible for this. She's afraid that she may have sealed her fate. And no sign of soulmates. This idea of a soulmate, again, this is a cynical 67-year-old man talking here. He's been married twice and in several other relationships. The idea of a soulmate is completely ludicrous to me. There's no such thing. But as long as we're searching for this, we're going to be constantly disappointed at the first sign of a crack in a relationship, at the first sign that this relationship is not the perfect fairy tale ideal that it was meant to be. It begins to fall apart and you begin to look elsewhere again for this soulmate, for the true thing, the real thing. But now she's acknowledging that there is no sign of soulmates. I guess the next step for her would be to stop looking for that.
I'm so afraid I sealed my fate, no sign of soulmates. I'm just a paperweight in shades of greyish.
I'm just a paperweight in shades of greyish. She feels a great heaviness. She feels she's of no use at all. She's of no more use than a paperweight. A paperweight is useful for holding down paper, but what a trivial thing to have to do, to spend your life doing, just holding down paper. So that's how she feels as the idea of soulmate begins to dissipate for her. And in shades of greyish. It's a great word, greyish, I think. I don't know when it came into being. Greyish is a kind of blend of grey and beige, both of which are very neutral colours, boring colours. This is what she's become. This is what life feels like for her if the idea of a soulmate isn't there to sustain her. She wonders, what's the meaning of life? What's the purpose of it all?
I'm so afraid I sealed my fate, no sign of soulmates. I'm just a paperweight in shades of greyish, spending my last coin so someone will tell me it'll be okay.
Spending my last coin so someone will tell me it'll be okay. How very tragic that is. A couple of images come to mind here, I suppose. One is like tossing a coin into a fountain and making a wish. The other is maybe visiting a fortune teller, handing over your coin and hoping that they'll tell you it'll be okay. Looking for that kind of reassurance. Still, she's in this magical realm. Still, she's not facing reality. She wants someone to tell her that it's going to be okay, even if she has to pay for them, even if she knows this is a fraud sitting in front of her. She just wants someone to tell her that it'll be okay.
I'm just a paperweight in shades of grayish, spending my last coin so someone will tell me it'll be okay. I've been on my knees, change the prophecy. Don't want money, just someone who wants my company. Let it once be me. Who do I have to speak to about if they can redo the prophecy? Who do I have to speak to? Prophecy, hand on the throttle. Thought I caught lightning in a bottle. Oh, but it's gone again. Pat around when I get home. I guess a lesser woman would have lost hope. A greater woman wouldn't say, but I looked to the sky and said.
So there's no real resolution to this issue in this song. I guess in terms of the album as a whole and the structure of the album, this song very clearly fits into the bargaining stage of the grief process. Here she's looking for a way out of the dilemma, a magical way out of the dilemma, and that represents where she's at in this stage of the process. She's looking for external explanations for what's happening. She's looking for someone, something, some power to intervene, to change what she perceives as her fate. She feels herself cursed. She's begging, bargaining for someone to change this, for a way out of this. And she doesn't find that in this song. At the same time, she recognizes that she's not behaving as a great woman here. She's not the worst of women, but she's not behaving as a better woman would. She's behaving like a child. She's behaving like a wild animal. She's behaving like a mad woman. And she feels at this stage in the process, and I guess this is where depression comes in too, she's feeling at this stage in the process that if this quest for a soulmate is fruitless, then there's nothing to her life. There's no colour to her life. It's all greyish. She's weighed down. She's of no more use than a paperweight in the world. So I think it's very important when we're looking at what she says here to see this song in this context as part of a whole process that she's going through. And this is just one of those stages. I'm reminded musically here, perhaps most of all, of Willow, and that also has these kind of magical themes. And also this idea of fate and destiny, that these two people are destined to be together. They're linked by this magical thread, which I guess is also apparent in the idea of invisible string. So this idea has been in Taylor's songwriting for quite a while, and she's wrestling with this. Certainly at this stage in the relationships that she's talking about, it all feels as if it's fate. It all feels as if it's beyond her control. And she's appealing to external forces, magical forces. She's not quite a good enough woman to have faith. She's appealing to magical forces to intervene. She doesn't identify who or what the force is behind this, but she still feels herself to be at the mercy of these mysterious forces. She's not yet at the stage when she can take responsibility, at least not in this song. I think that's where I'll leave this. I don't have a lot more to say. As always, I really love to hear your comments, your take on things, so please leave your comments below.